Episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And it's game day as Chicago Bulls face off against the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to talk about it all and more, have some fun, break it down right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, the Bulls, the disappointing ass, bullshit ass Chicago Bulls head to Brooklyn to face off against the Brooklyn Nets. Can the Bulls get a dub? Let's hope so. I don't believe so because I'm just down on this team right now. But listen, the Bulls have the capability of beating anybody. When they play well, when they execute well on both sides of the ball, they can compete with anybody. That is partially why this team is so frustrating this season, because we know they're capable of much better than what they've played with before. But when it comes down to it, the Bulls just not played up to that level, the expectation or their capability all season long, right? As a team, as a unit, we're talking about. I know there's individual players, but as a unit, this team has just not played up to that ability that we know that they all have. You know, part of it's coaching, part of it's player execution, things like that. Against this game, against the Brooklyn Nets, being on point defensively is going to be hugely important, especially for the way that this team can spread the ball out when they want to. They got a lot of players that absolutely could kill the Chicago Bulls as well. You know, we're a team that unfortunately gives up a lot of three-pointers and, you know, give up big performances to role players as well. So look out for Spencer Dinwiddie to possibly have a big night for the Brooklyn Nets tonight. But overall, you look at this team and how they have two 20-point per game scorers in Cam Thomas and Mikal Bridges. Now, I believe Cam Thomas is still out. Yes, Cam Thomas is still out. Dennis Smith Jr. is out. Ben Simmons is out. Nick Claxton is day-to-day. So, you know, Mikal Bridges is going to take a lot of that scoring load on. Cam Johnson is another player, though, that can absolutely fill it up. He hasn't been playing amazing this season, right? He hasn't really built off what some people thought he was going to do coming into the season, but he's still averaging a respectable 15 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, about 3 assists, 1 steal per game. So want to look out for Cam Johnson as well in this game. I've already said Spencer Dinwiddie Jr., Lonnie Walker Jr. is giving them some solid minutes as well so far this season. Dorian Finney-Smith, who killed us last game, you want to look out for him as well. The Bulls got to come in and be prepared, man. And they're not prepared. It can be a long night for the Chicago Bulls. That's for damn sure. So, you know, hopefully the Bulls come in. They come in prepared. They understand how they need to go about this. They understand what's at stake here as far as just, let me not say that. Because, I mean, if we're just being 100% honest, ain't much at stake for the Chicago Bulls team because everybody expects them to be the Chicago bullshitters. So I won't necessarily say a lot's at stake because, listen, this team is 5-12. We're 5-12 on the season. There's 65 games left of this bullshit. The Bulls are on a 3-game losing streak, so let's see if they can correct that. This is one of the games that are the most winnable on their record. On the schedule. Our next 10 games are brutal. So we face the Nets, Boston, Milwaukee, New Orleans, Milwaukee, Denver, 2 games against Miami. Then we got Philly and LA, and then San Antonio, and then Cleveland, and then Atlanta, and then Indiana, then 2 games against Philly. Guess what? That takes us till January. The rest of this schedule for the Chicago Bulls is tough for them. They all teams that can absolutely beat the Chicago Bulls. And so, listen, it's going to be a long season, y'all. If y'all haven't been able to tell by now, it's about to be a long ass season for Bulls fans. That's it. It's about to be real long. And listen, we're going to be frustrated. There's going to be times where we're going to curse everybody out. That shit's all coming. Just get ready for it. It's already written. It is what it is when it comes down to it. Let's go ahead and get to the comments. We got JK in the building. Says, I'm convinced a coach like Mike D'Antoni would help the way other teams' defenses wouldn't have time to get set. What's your thoughts? Listen, this team isn't set to be run and gun. Now, I know Mike D'Antoni has evolved his offensive game plan since that Phoenix Suns days to where it's not as much run and gun, but this team isn't necessarily. They can play up tempo, but they can't play run and gun. There are 2 very different things. So, and again, Mike D'Antoni's system is built a lot around ball movement as well. DeMar DeRozan, I don't think would do well in the Mike D'Antoni system at all. Like, I mean, not even remotely. So I don't like, I get where you're getting at with that on paper, right? But when you look at the actual makeup of this team, I don't necessarily feel like Mike D'Antoni would be the best coach for this roster. But hey, I love to be wrong on that one. Shay says, let's hope for a win. And the thing is, we got to hope, right? We definitely got to hope. Maddie Legend in the building says, yo, what's going on, Maddie Legend? Glad to have you in the building. Sean says, big drip, how we feeling today, gang? I'm feeling good as always, brother. Just ready to see how much this team's going to lose by tonight. I can understand being a rebuilding team and looking as bad and having heart and competing every night, but the way we look right now, our record is just embarrassing. Yeah, listen, this Bulls team is on pace to have a worse record than what we had under Jim Boylan, and we have way more talent than what that team had, so it's disappointing as hell. Definitely disappointing. Let's hope Bulls win tonight. I mean, listen, we always hope for a Bulls win. Always hope for a Bulls win. If Patrick Williams would just look to average 12 and 5, I would be so happy with him every game. Well, listen, I've told you before, like, I'm not even necessarily, it's not about points per game with Patrick, like, because this is not his role on this team. But you do want him to take open shots when he has them. But my thing is the step back he's taking defensively is more concerning. I want to see him crash the boards a little bit more, try to go after block shots, get some steals, those type of things. Just bring some energy. I just want to stop feeling like I forget Patrick Williams is on the court. That's the biggest thing, right? I don't care how you make an impact. Just go out there and make an impact. The biggest thing right now isn't necessarily that he's just not scoring a bunch of points, at least not for me. I know some fans have that expectation, and I think they don't really look at his role. I'm not saying 12 points isn't a lot, so I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, Shay, but I think when you just look at it, like, it's just the fact that we forget that Patrick Williams is on the court, and that's the largest indictment against him, in my opinion, because if I don't know you're on the court, that's tough, man. This team may suck, but this channel doesn't. Like and sub, y'all. Salute to Drip Lord Haize. Well, I appreciate that. First of all, just know this is a Bulls hoodie. It keeps. So you got to know, I got the Bulls drip. We keep the drip alive. So the drip don't stop. But yeah. Matt Legend says, if we can stop their best three-point shooter, even then the 10th guy off the bench, then we should win. Listen, we could say all day that the Bulls should do XYZ, but I have learned to stop betting on that with this franchise. That's what I've learned to do. Rondo 2 Ross says, what's good, everybody? Hope y'all had a good weekend. What's going on, Rondo? Glad to have you in the building. It's Seaways World. What's going on, man? I'm glad to have you here. Says, hey, Haize, just hoping for a better effort tonight with folks on the Nets being out. I mean, didn't we lose against the Nets last time and they had players out too? I think they were missing Nick Claxton and Cam Thomas then, and we still lost against them, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we lost to them 109-107. So that's the thing with this team, man. You just never know. You never know. Coolest JB in the building says, I feel like it don't matter to me whether we win or lose. I will start caring once we get a winning record if we do so. That's crazy, but hey. Levine drops 52, Jamar 38 with 63 pump fakes, Caruso 8 steals, Bulls lose by 15, take it to the bank. That's crazy. That's crazy. All I can say is I'm happy I am at work because last game almost killed my ass. I thought you were at work last game. It was the game before then. Rondo 2 Raw also chips in, about to watch the future face of our franchise, Mikal Bridges cooks. We're not getting Mikal Bridges. You might as well not even worry about that. We're not getting Mikal Bridges. We're not trading with the Brooklyn Nets. So that ain't happening, fam. That ain't happening. I would love to have Mikal. Honestly, I think Mikal Bridges would be a really nice wing player to play next to Zach LaVine. I really do. I think if you replace DeMar DeRozan with Mikal Bridges and what Mikal is, how solid he is defensively, and the fact that he can stretch the floor, I think that would be a nice wing duo. I think that would be real nice. But guess what? It ain't happening. Courtney Sykes in the building says, hey, what's up, my brother? Love the content, homie. Hey, I appreciate that. That's the biggest compliment that you can pay me. I'm glad that everybody likes the content, man. We just gonna keep chugging along. That's all we can do, man. The Bulls suck, but one thing is that it doesn't stop nothing around these parts. We still gotta go hard every single day. We're close to our 1,000 days in a row. Like, that's crazy. We're like 95, I think, days now away from me hitting 1,000 straight days of content, which is crazy. Crazy. Ain't nobody else doing it like that. Can we please score 20 points at least in the first? I mean, I think we did that last game. We still lost. So, I mean, we could probably score 20 points, but the key is not to score 20 points and allow them to score 39, right? We definitely losing there's no hope. Damn it. Well, you know what? Jokic, I think the last time you said there's no hope, we actually won the game. So let's hope that that's the case. We're winning the next 65. Watch what you're smoking cocaine, my friend. Perk is scheduled to take. That's the sad thing, right? This team isn't tanking. They are trying to win these games. That's what's crazy. It feels like a tanking season, but we're not tanking. That's wild. I can fully see us not winning a game until we play the Lakers. Listen, and I wouldn't even just assume that we're gonna go over the Lakers either. Not with the way that this team's playing. Like where I stand right now with the Chicago Bulls team is sad because I I I haven't been predicting wins and losses in like a year, right? So I stopped doing that once I saw that this team doesn't play with any level of consistency at all. But even outside of that, like the way that this team, I would not be surprised at all if we face the Lakers, which I think is at home in Chicago. Keep in mind they're 10-7 on the season. I'm not picking us to win against the Lakers, not with the way that this team's playing right now. I didn't know Julian was doing that good in the Windy City. Good update, Haize. Oh, thank you, little family. Yeah, listen, Julian Phillips is killing it in the G. Now, it's G League competition, but I want to put that in perspective. But the thing that I always talk about, and I say it on those Windy City Bulls update videos, is that you want a player that you drafted to go to, if they're going to play in the G League, you want them to look head and shoulders above that competition. And he looks like that both offensively and defensively. It'd be different if he was just scoring a lot of points, but he like looked bad defensively or something like that, because then I'll still be like, he's scoring. But listen, if he's getting cooked in the G League, he's going to probably get cooked in the NBA. Julian Phillips is killing it defensively, offensively, and rebounding wise, and he's starting to block shots now. That timing starting to get together for him. Listen, I'm not going to say that the Bulls have something in Julian Phillips yet because it is G League, but he's trending in the right direction. Definitely trending in the right direction. The Bulls need a win today. If they lose, I will be mad. So a win. That's funny. Listen, I'm over past the point of getting upset over Bulls losses. Like after I had my whole thing where I went off, that was kind of the last bit of upsetness I had. Archangel says, listen to one of your videos earlier. Billy Donovan extension 2 years before he needed an extension. How did that happen and why? Was it Billy's birthday and Jerry didn't know what to get him? What the fuck? No, it's an incompetent front office and or ownership. Because it could have been ownership that gave him that extension because, like I said, Billy Donovan talks to Jerry Reinsdorf every single day. So that could have been it. But it also could just be the fact that, hey, this front office just is fucking idiots. And it could be a mixture of both or all of those things. It could be all of it. Because right now, seeing this franchise and the way that they're performing, I can tell you what, this is trash. Like it's uniquely bad. I haven't seen a team struggle in the ways that the Bulls have found a unique way to struggle for me. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So there you go. But yeah, definitely struggle. I'm not gonna say I'm over the team, because to me, if I say I'm over the team, that means like I'm done with it, and that'll never be this case. But like this, they need to change something. They have to change something. And the fact that this front office, I fully believe, had it not been for the Zach LaVine trade request, would have absolutely just kept things the same, even with how we're struggling right now. Just said, well, you know what? We hope. We're going to go to the offseason. You know, we're going to hope that Julian Phillips now develops. It's going to be a lot of stuff, man. But it sucks where we're standing where we are right now. Like I said, the fact that we are playing like a rebuilding team that necessarily isn't rebuilding, that was beat to compete right now. So all that stuff that just goes into where the Bulls are, it just sucks. It sucks, bro. It just sucks where we are as a franchise right now. Like it's not much hope. It's just not much hope. Shay says, hey, it's not that I dislike or hated Kobe White. It's just that I feel like he didn't fit with the starters, especially DeMar DeRozan. Now I see that it's Debo. Listen, at some point, this is the thing, right? And this is what a front office that is willing to take risk would do, right? I'm not even going to say smart or dumb front office. I'm just going to say one that's willing to take a risk. And this team isn't one that takes risk. But when you see players that aren't necessarily that are impacting each other's efficiency, you would either try to make a move, or you would try to, whether it's moving one of them to the bench, prioritizing them in that way, trading them to other teams. But this team is like, yeah, I see that that's not struggling. But listen, if I stare at it long enough, really feel like that's what AK does. It's like, if I stare at it long enough, it'll start working. You know how when you turn something off and turn it back on, and sometimes that works, right? Or like, you just hope, you go to sleep and you're like, well, maybe it'll work in the morning. That's what our front office is. Our front office is you know what? Maybe it'll work in the morning. Let me sleep on it. What? Maybe I'll get it in the morning. And the morning ain't never come. We've been sitting in fucking 2 goddamn dark rooms for years. Like, it just where this franchise is right now. It's a comedy of errors that led us to here. Let me be clear on that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's wild. I know the front office usually likes to be patient, but if they wait too long this season, we'll be lost, and the draft isn't that strong, and then NBA hell starts. Well, that may be. Well, you don't want to just make a knee-jerk trade. And anyway, they're not going to make any moves before December 15th because that opens them up to more players. They may wait to January 15th because that's when the rookies can be traded. So, but here's what I'll say with that. Right now, that may be why the Bulls necessarily aren't in a rush. This draft isn't particularly strong. And if you do that, and we've seen very good players come out of drafts that weren't projected to be strong either. So I want to be clear on that. But like, if you look at this draft, there's no reason to tank for this draft. There's no reason. Like, usually, even in some weak drafts, it's like, well, the top two players are really good, and everybody there is kind of the same. Literally, the top 15 to 16 players in this upcoming draft all have about the same ceiling. So if you're the Chicago Bulls, it's like, all right, what am I trading? Like, we're struggling. Like, you don't even have to tank really this season because we suck. So on top of that, you're already projected right now. If the season ended today, the Chicago Bulls have the 8th overall pick. But there's really not that much different in potential from the 1st overall pick to the 8th overall pick, not in this year's draft. So that may be why you don't see the team really in a rush to kind of make any type of move because it really doesn't get anywhere. I left a comment about why the Bulls aren't a free agent destination. Is it because of ownership or Luau Deng's situation? I'm curious why, because this franchise is known all over the world. Well, they used to always say that it was the shadow of playing for the team that Jordan played. We're 20 years removed from that. I think when it comes down to it, we have never had, other than that brief glimpse with Derrick Rose, had a clear path or direction to where we can be a final contender. And so I think when you pair that with the fact that we've been in basically rebuilding 15 out of the last 20 years in the state of rebuilding, that probably goes into it as well. But then you also have that mindset that the Bulls haven't always treated their players the best. I don't think it's the Luau Deng situation, but you look at it. Jimmy, you had a player like Jimmy Butler here that your front office said, hey, we don't know how to build around this motherfucker. Let's trade him. That free agents see that, right? They see that. And then you had like players like Dwayne Wade, Jabari Parker to come here. Rondo came here. Stuff like DeMar came here. And while we've treated DeMar a lot better, and I hope that goes a way to maybe change that mindset of free agents coming here, but you got to look at it like this Chicago Bulls team hasn't treated their players the best. Like we sent away Bobby Portis. Now, understand why, right? We sent away Bobby Portis because he didn't want to sign the contract extension. That front office didn't want to take the risk. They traded him. It ended up being a stupid-ass move. But so, like, when you have that, even your own homegrown talent you don't hold on to, that's something that definitely plays a part into it. Definitely plays a part into it. If we lose tonight, we are 1-7 in our last 8. Give Billy another extension. Like, they already added 5 years to Billy Donovan's extension. Hey, you said that nobody would trade for DeMar DeRozan due to the fact that he's on the last year of his contract, but I think we should at least try to get something, even if it's a little to nothing. Well, it wasn't just that he was on the last year of his contract. It's the fact that he finally does look human. Like, DeMar DeRozan looks like he's starting to slide. On top of that, he's in the last year of his contract, so even if you did want to take a chance on DeMar, why give up any meaningful assets? So I get what you're saying and like explore it to see if you can get something back, if nothing. But I tell you what, if it ends up being a heavily protected second round pick, I mean, what are you really gaining at that point in time, right? Because you got to keep in mind too, you can't just get it. So you got to take salary back as well. And if the salary we get back isn't expiring also, and we have to take on long-term salary for the $20 million of DeMar's contract, then it may not be beneficial to you in that long run. So we'll see. You just read the next few games. Goddamn, we can lose all those games. Absolutely. We can lose all those games. All those games. Every single one of them. Montez says Javonte and DJJ big losses because they were so athletic and played above the rim. They need to switch the starting lineup to a big lineup. That 3-guard Billy BS is not the method for this team. Well, the problem with that is that we don't have a lot of big lineups that we can go to. Like I've told you before, starting Vooch and Drummond is not the answer to anything but struggling further. We tried to put Torrey Craig in there, didn't really play much better. We put Patrick Williams in there, didn't play much better. Now, we know Billy Donovan isn't going to take a shot at like a Julian Phillips starting there or anything like that. But at the end of the day, Billy tried to go with his 5 best players out there. I'm worried about Alex Caruso getting hurt, but I definitely agree that I would love us to have more size on this team. But, you know, we don't have it. Batum is looking gradually better too. Do you think if Batum put on more muscle would help him? He was looking a little overwhelmed by the physicality at times. Well, I actually talked about that on today's. I actually dropped it about an hour before we went live here on today's Windy City Bulls review. And Batum the game is coming to him, and he's adapting. The turnovers are still a little bit concerning. The lack of efficient shooting so far is concerning too. He's putting up points. He's averaging I think 11 or 12 points per game on not taking a lot of shots, but he's hitting in like a 33% clip and 25% from 3-point range. You want to see that get better. So I think that he's going to spend most of the time down in the G League, but he's definitely come along. Do I think more muscle would help? I don't know. Because I don't think he's necessarily having trouble creating separation in that way. I just think he's adjusting to the length, because whereas he can create separation in Euro League, the players are longer in the NBA. So you're creating that same separation, but then you have to adjust to the fact that, hey, I got about 2 feet away from this guy, but he has a 6'7" wingspan instead of 6'5" that I'm used to in Euro League. So I think that's the thing. Once he starts adjusting to that length discrepancy, I think he'll adjust pretty fine. The front office is holding on like a toxic relation. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What's good, Haize? Just thought a while ago, if Zach is gone in December or whatever, we'll probably have Kobe back in the starting lineup as shooting guard. Do you think this would be a good decision? It depends on what we get back. It's hard for me to say that just depending on what we get back for Zach, because if we get another 2-guard back, then maybe Kobe stays there. But I talked about it a little bit on today's daily episode, is that I could see, depending on what we get back from Zach, a world in which maybe it does end up being Kobe moves to the shooting guard. And I think that Kobe would play pretty well in that position. I think his passing has grown enough to where even if he's the 2, it's different when you're the point guard and your passing isn't necessarily the best. I think Kobe White's passing has improved to a way, if he was the 2 guard, it's going to be pretty damn solid for a 2 guard who's not expected to run a lot of the offense. I also think that you're removing a ball dominant player, so Kobe having the ball in his hand to create a little bit more for himself is something that he can do. Now, he's not Zach LaVine level at creating for himself yet, but I do think that Kobe White could be a more efficient scorer with having more things go through him. Absolutely. I'll probably leave a voicemail about it, but I think Kobe would be a good point for us if we change up the roster. Yeah, it really comes down to, because I would say this, for example, Kobe White would be a great point guard for the Bulls if you had a player like Luol Deng at the 3, or a player like Joakim Noah at the 5 that you trust to run some of your offense through, right? And then you can have Kobe come off screens, I would have Kobe White watch so many Rip Hamilton videos, because if you can just become efficient at coming off screens, catching and shooting, which he can do a little bit of now, we just haven't seen that, but also I think he can create for himself much better than Rip Hamilton ever was. That would really help Kobe White's game a lot. Teams are literally watching the Bulls fail and are waiting till the Bulls have a fire sale and give us scraps, all for the front office to give us the cap flexibility excuse. I don't think that that's going to be the case, because I don't think this team is ever going to just sell off their players for scraps. This is going to be a team that, even if they do retool or go into a minor rebuild, they're still going to be trying to win games. We're not going to see this team go to the tanking route, right? Even rebuilding is different than tanking. So I don't think we ever see this team just sell everything just to tank. And because of that, I don't think you'll ever see the roster that they'll say, oh, now we got cap flexibility. I don't think you'll see that from this front office. Bulls should just attack the paint and not do the 3-point shot. Only shoot it when it's available. Sometimes the Bulls will try to just shoot a 3 constantly when it's clearly a bad shooting night. Well, the thing is that if they did what you said, they'd be the easiest team to defend in the league, because all you got to do is pack in the lane, especially when we're a team that doesn't move without the ball. If you're going to be a team that doesn't shoot 3-pointers, you can do it, but you have to do a couple of things effectively. You have to rebound the ball extremely well on both the defense and offensive side of the ball. You have to limit turnovers. You have to be an efficient team as far as assist to turnover ratio. You also have to move without the ball, have some fluidity in your offense, and they don't do any of those things consistently well. So it'll be difficult for that team to operate in the way that you just said. Drell is not going to be the answer. Go look at his shooting splits. Drell is not going to be the answer. I can tell you that. Now, I can see Drell eventually becoming a shooter off the bench, but he's not the answer for anything that woes the Bulls right now. Not even close to it. The next few months will be so critical to this organization. Oh, for sure. Listen, but we've been saying that. We've been saying that for this Chicago Bulls team forever. The fact of the matter is that it seems like everybody in the world has recognized that the Bulls, it's a critical period for the Bulls, except the front office. And that's what's the biggest concern in this. How does everybody else in the basketball hemisphere understand how important this stuff is for the Bulls, except the front office? That's concerning. That's concerning. So, Haize, how did you think Kobe would look in the pick and roll out? Listen, one of the players that I'm irrationally high on, and I will just admit that right now, a player that I'm irrationally high on is Alfred Sengun. I love his game. Absolutely. I love the way that he plays. I love the heart that he plays with. I love the fact that he's not even a great defender by any stretch of the imagination. But you know what? That dude fights through screens. He competes hard. I can absolutely see Henry Gel, if he's not already. Keep in mind, I don't watch a lot of Houston Rockets basketball. But he's somebody that I can definitely see getting to the point to where his defense doesn't match his offensive ceiling, but he does enough defensively where you're not worried about him defensively. But Sengun, the way that he when he does do some ball handling, some playmaking, very minuscule amounts, but he can do that. He can rebound. He can block shots. He can shoot the three. He can take players off the dribble. I'm not trying to make him seem like he's a unicorn, because he isn't, but he's just a player that is just a well-rounded player. He's just a well-rounded player. I really like. If you, for example, flipped Patrick Williams and Sengun, if we had Sengun on this same roster right now, this Chicago Bulls team would be expected to go into the second round of the playoffs. Completely expected. Sengun is that damn good. That good. Lil Famo says, hey, Haize, people really out here saying send Zach where he want to go. He deserves. He's been with us through the struggle. That's so funny to me. Well, no, I understand that mindset, right? Don't get me wrong. I understand, because Zach has been here. He did grow his game here. And he went through some tough times. We gave him Jim Boylan and Fred Hoiberg as his first two coaches here, and then followed up with Billy Donovan, who ain't much better. And I would be open to sending Zach where he wants to go if they give us the best deal. Like, my priority list is the best deal for the Chicago Bulls. If we can do that and send Zach somewhere where Zach can flourish and he can compete for a title, cool. But my first and foremost thing is getting the best deal for this team. Because once Zach's gone, we don't owe Zach LaVine shit. We don't like, and that I say that and it sounds harsh. Keep in mind, I'm a Zach LaVine defender. But at the end of the day, if you trade a player, especially if Zach LaVine brought us a title, I'll be all for all right, bet, let's send him where he wants to go. We owe him that. We ain't even won a goddamn playoff series. You got to do and make the best deal for your franchise and worry about all that other shit later. If you send him to a team he doesn't want, if the goddamn Wong Dong Tigers offered us the best deal for Zach LaVine, that's where I trade him. If he doesn't want to be there, you got to work that out with the new team you go to. Period. I'm sorry, but I know people might hate this, but I have a lot of high hopes for Kobe, and I feel like he can take this team far later in years, like in 4 to 5 years or something. I mean, listen, I think people that are harsh on Kobe are judging him by something much like they did with Vooch that he never was meant to be. And I think also, like, we live in this microwave society where everybody just wants everything now. Kobe White is learning, and he's learning while still being a player that's trying to find his shot, but also being somebody who wasn't naturally a facilitator and trying to do more of that. I really like what he has. I really like what Kobe White's growing and turning into. I like where he seems like he's developing. Is winning conducive right now for the Bulls? I know it could help us with morale, especially for the young guys, but it's trying to get wins. Smart move considering the current state of the Bulls. I would say yes in this year because of what I just said. This draft, it don't matter. Like, I'm just being real with you. As long as you scout well and you do your research on these draft picks, I can absolutely see you in pick 15 getting somebody just as good at pick number 3 or 5. I just can in this draft. So you just got to do your research well. Now, if this was next year's draft and the Bulls were in the same situation and they own their own first round pick, I would say no, the winning is not conducive. But in this upcoming draft, this isn't really the draft that's worth tanking for at all. What's up, Haize? Hey, this Bulls team needs a Jamal Crawford or a Ben Gordon. No, they need more than that, but that would definitely help, especially with 3-point shooting. This is just what if ball moves get hurt? Do you what? Okay, here you go. You fixed it. It's just a what if. What if ball never gets hurt? Do you believe we have made the Eastern Conference Finals? That's one of the biggest what ifs, and I think that that team still had big flaws. I know everybody's like, oh, they were the number one team in the East. We wouldn't have stayed number one team in the East, not with our point differential and how we were playing. Probably would have dropped no lower than 5, but probably still been top 4. But I think it's hard to say because if this team Like, for example, if Lonzo doesn't get hurt and last season we still add Drummond like we added last season, oh, that Drummond and Lonzo Ball pick and roll, you better watch your neck, right? So I think that if this team, the last couple of off seasons, had been able to focus on filling the holes of that team rather than trying to replace Lonzo, I don't know if we would be ECF, but I definitely think we'd be a team that would make it out the first round of the playoffs for sure. Honestly, Haize, I think that the front office knows how important it is to get this trade right. I just think that they know that this will be another L and it's just stuck. Yeah, I mean, listen, they got to win this trade. And it doesn't mean that you have to win it up front, right? But in the long term, we need to look back and say, yeah, that was the right move. That move helped move the Chicago Bulls a lot. So although I'm here to support another night of mediocrity yet again. Shout out to you, Simba. Ella says, I would personally like to see the young players this season develop on the court in real game situations. P. Will, Io, Phillips, Bateem, Terry, Sinago, and any others. Well, the first two that you named are playing. Phillips, like I said, I understand, especially as a second round pick, why he's there. And Bateem would absolutely give you would probably kill Bateem's confidence putting him against NBA players right now. They're still developing. You can develop down in the G League. That's why it was originally called the D League, developmental league. Dalen Terry, listen, he had a really good performance coming back. Sonogo, I'm coming more and more around to what Sonogo can be, right? But again, if you want my full thoughts on that, go watch the G League video that I literally posted an hour before I went here. I went into detail on all those players. The draft that matters, the one with Cooper Flag. Yeah, but we don't have our own first round pick outright in that draft. So there's some things to go into that with that as well. So I would get rid of if we get rid of Levine, we need to make sure we get back shooters, like real shooters who don't go cold every game. No, I won't say that. You get the best players you can, period. Because I tell you what, the only way that you make sure you get shooters back if you're still trying to win with this roster. And that's not what we want to see this team do. Not to say that they are trying to tank or anything, but the only way that you make sure you get shooters back is that if you are still trying to find a way to make this work with DeMar, Nikola Vucevic, whoever you get. I think you get the best talent possible back, and then you work out everything else in the offseason to make it work or make subsequent trades. That's what I think is the most important thing here. Get the best talent available because you haven't gotten in the last couple of drafts. Do you think AK is holding on to the big three until he can go after a certain set of players? Maybe there's a plan that they are waiting to pull the trigger on. I mean, listen, if it is, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Certification Poppy says, seeing people in the media say Zach doesn't play winning basketball when he had Denzel, Zipser, Boylan, and Holberg in his corner is crazy. Almost all the players not even in the NBA anymore. Well, I mean, listen, both two things can be true, right? Zach LaVine isn't the type of player that typically is going to just win you games on his own. Zach LaVine is a hell of a player. And when he's in rhythm, there aren't many people who can score with the fluidity that Zach LaVine does. But the defensive lapses, the basketball IQ, I can understand why people also say he's not a winning player because, listen, those things are still rightful critiques of Zach LaVine's game. Now, I think if you in what AK tried to build with this team with bringing in Zoe, bringing in DeMar, bringing in Alex Caruso, that thing, all those moves, if you look at it, were all made to help cover up certain flaws in Zach's game. The defensive IQ, basketball IQ, Lonzo Ball. Zach LaVine put up some of the best defensive numbers of his career playing next to Lonzo Ball. You know why? Because Lonzo's such an intelligent defender and he's such a verbal communicator on that defensive side of the ball. He helped those gaps, those IQ gaps that Zach LaVine had. He missed that. Zach LaVine also isn't necessarily the best player in clutch situations with the turnovers, things like that. You brought in DeMar DeRozan, who those first 2 years, he's now fallen off, was one of the best clutch player in the NBA. That was there also to help solve while giving Zach LaVine another player that can score really good with him. So you see the way they made, the reason why they made the moves that they move. Even Alex Caruso means that you're always going to have a guard out there. If it's not Lonzo, it's Caruso. Then Io ended up developing. So they made moves to help kind of mitigate the flaws of Zach LaVine's game. But it all came crashing down. Isn't the pick we owe the Spurs for Cooper Flag draft class is top 10 protected? But as we know with the Chicago Bulls, I mean, keep in mind, you can have the fourth worst record in the NBA and drop to number 10. So that's why it's like, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. If the Bulls do tank, chances are they'll probably hold on to it. But, there is that risk as well. Zach to the Hornets for Brandon Miller and more said, the Charlotte Hornets aren't a free agent destination. They're not going to trade a player they just drafted in Brandon Miller for Zach LaVine. That's not what's going to happen there. More than likely, if we do trade, With the Hornets, they have tons of first round picks, so you're going to get some first. You're probably going to get either Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward, and then maybe like a PJ Washington. But that's probably the best package you're getting back. You're not getting Brandon Miller. Maybe you can try to finagle Mark Williams out of him, because maybe they can just say, hey, if we get Zach LaVine and add that to LaMelo Ball, we got Brandon Miller. We can find another defensive center that can rebound, block shots for us. Doesn't necessarily need the offense, but that's probably the best you're getting back. And even the Mark Williams aspect is a long shot. Long shot. Who are the big name free agents this offseason? That is actually a good question. I'm not even going to lie to you. I have not looked at the upcoming free agents this year because I just doubt the Bulls are going to be big free agent. Even though they can have some cap space, I just doubt that they will, because who's going to want to come to this shit show is where it stands right now. But let's see. Let's see. Free agents. Who are the top free agents this upcoming year? Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, James Harden, Pascal Siakam, Drew Holiday, Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Buddy Hield, Mike Conley, Bruce Brown Jr., Lonzo Ball. That's if that he has an option. He's definitely picking up that option. Wait a second. Is that right? Yeah, it's a player option. They had it listed wrong. They had it as a club option. I'm like, that's not true. It's a player option. Evan Fournier, Spencer Dinwiddie, OG Anunoby, restricted free agent. Which I think he's no, they haven't signed to D'Angelo Russell, Markelle Fultz. Listen, free agent class ain't that great. So there you go on that one. Zach is the third option on a good team, to be honest. A 2 or worst case. I'll tell you what, if Zach LaVine is your fourth best player, you're a championship level team. I'm just going to tell you that right now. If you add Zach LaVine to a team and look at that roster and say, Zach LaVine's the fourth best player on that team, that's a championship level team. That's just is what it is. I know a lot of people like to shit on Zach. If you add Zach and he's the fourth best player on the team, no, that's a championship level team. If we did trade Zach to the Spurs, we can get the 2025 pick back as part of the trade. Yes, they can remove the protections. I think you may have suggested that in the past video, but making sure I understand you right. Yes, so they don't own the pick outright, but they can remove the protection, meaning that we just keep our pick outright. So that is something that they can do. We'll see. The Lakers don't have a good return for, not in my opinion. I don't think the Lakers have a good return at all potentially for Zach LaVine. I mean, they do have some first, but those first wouldn't come into 2028-30. There are definitely teams that can do better than that. Haize, would you be mad if they signed D'Lo in the offseason if the Lakers don't sign him? I mean, it depends. What does his team look like at that point in time, right? That's the biggest question is where are we headed? What's the goal? Like, and we won't really know that until the Zach LaVine trade happens. But that would be the biggest question in that is where are we headed? What are we doing as a franchise at that point in time? I can't just answer that. I mean, theoretically, like, don't get me wrong, D'Lo's not a terrible player at all. That's definitely adding talent to your team. But hey, Caruso is out tonight. I mean, listen, that it doesn't surprise. Everything is going wrong for the Bulls. It doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me at all. So let me go ahead and add that to the title, though. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It sucks for Alex Caruso. Like I said, Billy always is going to get people hurt, man. It sucks. Let me add that to the title just so people can find it. But yeah, that's crazy. Bulls can go to hell, all I care. That's crazy. But they gave. Oh, did they sign D'Lo to an extension? Why don't they have that updated on here? Let's see. They didn't. They re-signed him this offseason, but he has a player option, so he can opt out of his contract at the end of the season and hit unrestricted free agency. So there you go on that one. Good call out though, Tay. Hit the like button. Great content. That's from Matty Legend. I would honestly love to see Zach on Heat. Think they could unlock his defense a bit. Listen, they don't want him. He doesn't fit Heat culture, but I do think that Zach LaVine going to a culture like the Miami Heat where there are clear expectations set from the coaching staff to the GMs to the roster itself. They hold each other accountable. I do think that you could see a Zach LaVine that may take that step defensively that we've all talked about, but even outside of the defense of it, I think when we've seen Zach LaVine be a solid team defender at times here, right? But I think it definitely helps a lot too. Stepped on his big toe. Yeah, Kobe stepped on his toe. That's crazy. Oh, I will miss Caruso. Reminds me of Baby Kirk. That's funny. I wish I could have a fan option. You do. You're not tied to any contracts. Get the hell up out of there. If Alex Caruso is not playing, I accept the L already. I have zero faith in mediocrity. I'm sick and tired of the nonsense. These are grown adults. We're asking them to put in effort on their job. That's great. Listen, Jason, I appreciate. I see you. You always leave the flame emojis. You leave it on every video. I appreciate you, King, for supporting the channel. But I want to hear some of your opinion, bro. Don't just leave the flame emojis. You got thoughts. You watch every game. You hear on every video. Get some of your thoughts in there on these comments, bro. Get some of these thoughts in there. Bucks going to sneak in and get Zach the way they did for Lillard. Don't know what they give up, but they're going to do some Rizzery sit. Well, no, they can't do that. They don't really have the contract if we take Chris Middleton back for Zach LaVine, I'm fucking going off. That's it. I'm literally going the hell off. You want to see me lose my shit? If they trade Zach LaVine for Chris Middleton, I'm flipping out. A starting lineup today: Kobe White, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Nikola Vucevic. That's your starting lineup today. Surprised he didn't start Torrey Craig instead of Pat, but hey, Pat did have a solid fourth quarter in the last game. The game was already decided, but he did have a solid fourth quarter. Zach got a good reputation with Team USA, so there's a chance he's highly regarded amongst his peers and coaching staff. Coach Pop used him as a passing lane defender. Listen, I always tell you guys this. There's nothing more than NBA teams having 10 years worth of data on Zach LaVine. Yes, he may have a good reputation, but listen, that team run with Team USA ain't showing them nothing that their analytics department haven't already told them. Y'all act like Zach LaVine played defense like James Harden. It's not that much different, bro. At times, like I said, Zach LaVine absolutely has a different gear that he goes into that we haven't seen from Harden consistently. So I will say that, but game to game, it's not that much different. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's better. He's definitely better defensively than James Harden. He is. But I mean, James Harden also is fucking trash defensively, and has been for a while. Not you mad at as his emojis. He just thinks you fired. No, I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying, you're here all the time. We want to hear your opinion. That's all I'm saying. I just want to hear his opinion because I know he watches every game because he's always here. That's all I'm saying. Not mad at all. Bulls would do some shit like that to trade for Middleton and Giannis, brother. See, listen, don't get me pre-pissed off, bro. Don't get me pre-pissed off. Vooch got to show up tonight after the F's last game. I mean, we can say that all the time. Somebody got to show up. That don't mean they will. I signed a blood contract with Chicago team. Ain't no leaving this pool of shit. That's funny. Cam, are you talking about Cam Thomas or Cam Johnson? Because Cam Johnson definitely ain't dropping 40, and Cam Thomas is out. So let me not say definitely, because now that I say that, he probably will. I want to trust him, but my heart and history tells me the Bulls will make some stupid trades. I mean, listen, you're not wrong for feeling that way. I don't think the style of play Billy want this team to play just can't play. Few changes need to be made, not major. I don't know. I don't know if I agree on that. Theoretically, yeah, some minor changes and tweaks can help this team play better, but it's do you trust that? Do you trust it? Not gonna lie, Pop is a positive male figure to a son of a single mom, dog. He can't get the best out of any and everybody. Bro, that's funny. He can get the best. I mean, Pop's just some people who's that good. I hope Billy gives Drummond some minutes. I feel like he's so underutilized. Like I always tell people, literally, that Drummond's efficiency in every aspect of the game goes down the more minutes he plays. Period. No, ain't that stupid to trade Middleton for Zach. Listen, that would be. I hope they're not that stupid. Like that. That would be something that would literally make me lose my shit. All the access I have with the Chicago Bulls, they literally be like, "Hey, Haize, don't even show up no more, bro. Don't show up no more. We invite you to no more events. We ain't doing none of that." If Zach wants to go to the Heat, how would you feel if the young player piece of the trade was Haize? Listen, um, that's crazy. Keep in mind, they wanted to hold on to Haize so bad that that's part of why the Dame trade didn't go through. They didn't want to give him up. I mean, listen, Haize looked great against us. Great against us. Trade DeMar DeRozan for Chris Middleton because DeMar DeRozan can actually thrive in Milwaukee Bucks system with that much shooting. Listen, no, he can't because he definitely be playing off ball. Dame Lillard is one of the most ball dominant players in the league, in league history, not just in the league. No, that you'd be forcing DeMar DeRozan to play off ball then. And DeMar, nah, that ain't it. That ain't it. DLP says, Heat girl here. I pray Heat don't trade for Zach. Hey, I understand that. DLP. Let me stop. I almost made a joke. I got to stop. Thank you for joining. We appreciate you. Haize, aren't you low-key excited to see the Bulls without the big three and finally see what Kobe, Phillips, and Pat can do? Another Billy D is whack, and the GM can't draft. Well, let's see. Go Bulls. Peace. I wouldn't say that. You know how Haize goes to Halloween parties as a pirate every. Oh, he looks like Captain Morgan. He looks exactly like Captain Morgan. Exactly like Captain Morgan. Haize, I'm in New York. Decided to go to the game. Hope we win. All right. I appreciate. Well, hopefully they get a win for you. I made the name with joking. Okay, so see, we're of the same mind. I like that. I'm glad you didn't get offended by that, and you knew exactly where I was going to go with the joke. But all right, guys, we're like 13 minutes away from game, so I'm going to go ahead and end the live. I'll be back at halftime. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button as well on your way out as we're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers by the end of the season, which probably isn't going to happen because the Bulls suck. But I'll see you guys and at the halftime hangout.